Brakat Yahweh, Brakat Yahweh Shai, Brakat Yahweh, Brakat Yahweh Shai, Brakat Yahweh, Brakat Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Chakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there, you Akim to Sadakim, that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. I'm the priest Shaman, and this week's topic is going to be entitled, It's Not About Nukes. It's not about nukes. And I'm just, further dovetailing off the previous lesson I did on the situation going on in Iran. In the last lesson I spoke about, I was pretty much going into how these devil's tongues are falling upon themselves. How, Tucker Carlson was pretty much cutting Senator Ted Cruz on his stance on Israel. And Ted Cruz fucked up by saying that, quoting that scripture about those who come against Israel, the Lord will destroy. Those who stand with Israel, the Lord will bless. People started cutting them left and right, talking about how that was going into Abraham. And you got people coming on these platforms saying, look, they are not the real Jews. And I'm talking about mainstream alternative media. And the word is getting out there. This scripture of the century right now. Luke 12:2, I keep bringing this one out. It says, for there's nothing, this is the Lord speaking, for there's nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Even a lot of the stuff that the apostles and the elders have been saying is going to come to light to the regular people at some point. Then they're going to say, look, these guys were the prophets. You know what I'm saying? Because, we even non-Great Millstone camps teach you who the real people are, who the real people of the Lord are, and who the devil is. But them so-called Jews, they disclosing, like showing that they're the devils. They run everything. They run Hollywood. And this guy, Bibi Netanyahu, that's why I want to say it's not about nukes, because this guy, Matt Gaetz, another Edomite, in politics, he's known for being like, he was going to be the original attorney general, but I guess Trump used him as a feint, because the moment he was announced as, then all of a sudden a sex scandal came out about him and shit, and then they replaced him with Pam Bondi. But Matt Gaetz, he's known for like bringing cameras and shit and exposing other politicians. He's one of the few guys in the political space in that realm that's not funded by AIPAC. And he was just pretty much outright saying it. He was like, look, it's not about nukes. First of all, if it was about nukes, then how come we're not trying to fuck with North Korea? They're a bigger threat than Iran. How come we're not trying to fuck with Russia? There's a meme going around saying, we're in Iran for the nukes. Then they was like, why don't you go to Russia? He's like, are you crazy? They got nukes. So it's getting harder and harder to fool this current generation. See, you can fool the previous generation, the boomers, a lot easier because they still rely on the mainstream media. But the younger generation, they have alternative media. They got X, they got Instagram, they got TikTok. So they're gonna have a different perspective. And this is how come there's been this very hard push on censorship. But the more you censor, the more people are gonna distrust the mainstream platform that allows censorship, and say, nah, man, I gotta go somewhere. I want some unfiltered news. And it's kind of having a blowback effect. And I also mentioned many times, all right, that Iran's biggest, because it came out that Iran is threatening to use the Strait of Hormuz. And I think I said this even as late as the previous lesson, that look, Iran is a theocracy. Okay, the Ayatollah is seen as a religious figure, and it's an Islamic state. And in that Islamic religion, you can't have nuclear weapons, okay? Because you cannot kill innocent people. Supposedly, like, that's part of their thing. That's how come every time you see Iran hit people, hit Israel with missiles, they always put out statements that they're hitting an underground IDF military facility, and there's little to no casualties or killings. And they always say we didn't hit any innocent people. The Ayatollah has to do that because Israel is trying to poke him to kill the innocent. That way, if he kills the innocent, he'll look like a hypocrite in his beliefs, and hopefully get toppled or introduce some sort of regime change. Just like Iran has to constantly say, we didn't kill innocent people. And you could even ask any Middle Eastern person that is of Islamic faith, they'll tell you, if you go up to them and be like, yo, isn't it in your faith that you guys can't have nuclear weapons? They'd be like, thank you, because they know that shit. They know that the mainstream media is manipulative. You see, now there's no, to my knowledge, Sharia law against having allies that do have it. This is how come Iran tend to use proxies, all right? Iran tend to use a lot of proxies like Hezbollah, all right, which is, you know, a militia, Islamic militia kind of political group. They're not like an official army. They, you know, they have ties with Yemen, and it, you know, just so much information is coming out. PNAC, Project for a New American Century. You know, the goal to invade regime change 7 countries in the Middle East, and Iran was the last one. So Iran is a major stronghold, and plus Iran is sort of like the last resistance in the Middle East, if you will, before you start to border into places like Russia, and you know, they're like the last hegemony for China and these so they're a major player. You know, the last thing countries like Russia and Iran, I'm sorry, countries like Russia and China want is a friendly puppet in Iran that is, you know, U.S. friendly, Israel friendly, you know. So it's going deeper than a nuke. It's for the land, it's for the oil, it's for these, it's a big thing going on right now. And it's very crazy how the Lord even got Edomites, even of Trump's base, saying they're regretting voting for Trump because Trump ran so much saying, I will not bring you into war. Getting on Barack Obama, all right? Exposing, because remember, they pulled this whole nuclear weapons of mass destruction shit with Iraq, and it was a lie. And they've been saying Iran, this is, you know, we have 1 day till they fully nuclearize. They've been saying that shit for like 20 years, man. For decades. So, one thing Matt Gaetz brought out too was like, and I said it also in the lesson, that Bibi Netanyahu was on trial. He pretty much said that you want to talk about regime change in Iran, there was about to be a regime change in Israel. The Likud party, if Bibi was about to get hit up in the courts, and all of a sudden the next day bomb Iran. Saying? So this is Luke 8:17. It says again, same thing, Yahushua, for nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything that shall not be known and come abroad. Right. So this word is gonna come out. These secrets that these devils of doing is gonna come out. And you know, again, Psalm 64:8, their own tongue shall fall upon themselves, and the Most High is gonna reveal these things through the prophets. It says Ecclesiastes 12:14. It says, for the Most High shall bring every work into judgment, with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Right? Every secret thing. So these devils think they are, you know, they're in the light, and you know, nobody's looking at. No, now all the Lord. This is why this is Yahweh Bashim Shai program. Now all the light is being shined upon you. You see, the things that are coming out, pretty much you'd have to be on some super conspiracy looking type thing to get this information. Now, not only can you get it more easily, but it's like legitimate conversations being had. You know, there's legitimate conversation being had of how, example, Israel bombed USS Liberty, okay? And a survivor of that came on Candace Owens and went all into the history about it. And how Harry Truman, it was Truman, I believe, was a president that said, we can't, or was it Truman or Eisenhower? One of these presidents was like, yo, we can't upset our allies Israel. So people look back at that and say, wait a minute, there's people in our government that are putting this state before its own people. You know, and I was watching this guy on YouTube. You even have, I'm talking about, you know, that just traditional Edomite, that's just America. They are feeling betrayed. And if Trump brings America into this war and tag America into this war with Iran, he's going to lose a lot of his base, man. You know, now granted, wars are being fought much more differently now. It's not a war of boots on the ground type shit anymore. You know, a lot of it is going to be AI driven. I mean, it's still being fought. Of course, troops still matter, but I'm just saying, like, the current warfare is, you know, utilizing things like Palantir for facial recognition so they can find targets, and trying to have men away from it. You know why too? Because people will get emotional. You know, there's people that went into the first war and said, you know, I felt bad killing somebody, and saying, look, we're here to free you from 9/11. I free you because of what happened to 9/11. And people in Iraq are like, what the fuck are you talking about? See, the emotions start to kick in, like, wait, what am I doing? But if you have robots, drones, and these sorts of things that Esau is pushing, you don't got to give them orders. I mean, they're not gonna get emotional. See, Again, the Most High is revealing all this to his prophets, you know. Amos 3:7 says, surely the Lord will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servant, the prophets. You see, so all these things, you know, that's how the Most High works. The Most High will have a brother stumble across something, and we, you know, we go into it, we link it with the scriptures, and we bring it out, and then boom, it come to pass. You know, it's crazy because I was literally talking to Elder Ariala. You know, we was discussing the situation in Iran. I was pretty much saying, like, you know, Iran, I told, you know, the whole Islamic situation, and, you know, their best defense is what? Is to leverage the Strait of Hormuz, which would stop the flow of oil within Kuwait and these other different Middle Eastern countries. You know, I mean, it's responsible for 25% of the world's oil exports. And that would then bring in China and other countries that rely on it. And, you know, that's what they threatened. And it's just like, yo, you know, these, you know, we say these things, and the Most High is using us and having these things come to pass. You know, this has been a very exciting year, man. You know, it's very incredible how the Most High is just having a lot happen so quickly, you know, very much quickly, you know. So hey, man, yeah, this thing is definitely not about no nuclear. Iran, I mean, look, they even brought it out. You had Tulsi Gabbard saying they don't have nuclear weapons. You have these guys get checked crazy amounts for, you know, are you enriching your uranium to a point where it becomes a nuclear weapon? Like I talked about in the last episode, you can enrich uranium. The specific one that's done about the that's involved in nukes, I believe, is uranium-95. You have uranium-93 and uranium-95, and if you enrich uranium-95 to 90-something%, and enriching it means enriching it means like they spin it, they put it through this process, like they make it a gas and they start to separate U93 and U95, and the more they create that separation, it creates energy, and it becomes like a higher percentage of a uranium that could be used for destruction. You know, and that's how come they say if you enrich it up to 90-something%, then you can weaponize it and what have you. But there's no proof of Iran doing that. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, that's why the scripture says that the weak say I'm strong, because these nations, once you backed by Russia, who has over 3,000 plus nukes, you good. You know, you good. You have that ally. But the world is waking up to these small hats, the shit that they've done, and it's harder for them to get this younger generation. You know, they like to pull the Holocaust shit, but guess what? This younger generation, they don't even, you know, they didn't experience that. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about something over 100 plus years ago, so they can't really relate to it. You know? So a lot of the younger generations on the, like, all they seeing is what's in front of them now. They're seeing what's happening in Gaza, they're hearing about the history, and, you know, they're picking the sides of the people of Palestine. You know? And I'm talking about Edomites, man. This is the Most High dividing things up and just, you know, having it play how he wants it to play. You see? So, hope you brothers were edified. I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Kodash, that belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, which you well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there, you Akim to Zadakim, that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. Shalom.